Chapter 124. The crowd was extremely noisy, but they were all stopped by the experts of the three sections. They formed a large circle around the center of the blood group's mining area. Yang Kai looked inside and saw the 5 elders of High Heaven Pavilion and a group of people fiercely discussing something. It seemed like they were quarreling, and each of them was red in the face. Among them, there was a burly man who was particularly agitated, spittle flying everywhere. Another scholarly-looking middle-aged man was comforting him. From the side came a discussion. That bear-like man is Human, the helper of the blood group. That scholar is the Lord of Stormhouse, Xiao Ruahan. In the end, what happened here? How come the experts of the 3 sects all gathered here? Hey, I came early and ran a little closer. I heard the experts say that there is a Heaven's Cave inheritance here. What is the Heaven's Cave inheritance? The latter was obviously ignorant and inexperienced. Yang Kai also didn't know. He quickly perked up his ears and listened carefully. Many people around him also did the same. After speaking, he smiled and began to talk about the various benefits of the Heaven's Cave inheritance. The group of people who listened to him became excited. They couldn't wait to immediately kill their way into the Heaven's Cave inheritance and inherit the mantle of the expert here. So that's how it is. Suddenly, Kai Yang thought back to 2 months ago when he had felt a trace of unusualness in this place. At that time, it was only because there was some kind of Yang attribute treasure buried here that he returned the favor by asking Humei Heir to search for it. But he didn't expect that there was a Heaven's Cave inheritance hidden here. At that time, Yang Kai felt that the Yang attribute energy was blocked by something. Now that he thought about it, it should be the restriction here. This was an accident. It could be said that the appearance of the Heaven's Cave inheritance had a lot to do with Yang Kai. He was the one who unwittingly promoted it. Next to him, the insider was still chattering away, but Kai Yang didn't listen anymore. He was thinking about what the experts of the 3 sects would do after the appearance of the Heaven's Cave inheritance. It was absolutely impossible for one side to swallow it all alone. Even if one side wanted to, the other 2 sides would not give them the chance. The blood group was undoubtedly such a party. Then the only possibility left was for the blood group to compromise and the 3 sects to jointly explore the secret. However, the blood group would definitely want to taste the sweetness first. After all, this place was discovered by others, so he had to take some benefits first. While Yang Kai was deep in thought, the masters of the 3 sects seemed to have reached an agreement. Each of them called out a powerful disciple and asked them to enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance to explore the situation. The one from High Heaven Pavilion was Su Yan, the one from Blood Group was Long Jun, and the one from Stormhouse was Fong Ziji. The 3 of them came to the side of the huge pit and jumped in together. After a long wait, it wasn't until half a day later that Su Yan was the first to return. Her body suddenly appeared at the edge of the giant crater. Then she walked over to the 3 sect masters and reported her findings. After a while, Long Jun and Fong Ziki also returned. After listening to the 3's reports, the 3 sect masters had an urgent discussion. They nodded to each other and dispersed in 3 different directions. Not long after, the sound of the 3 sect masters gathering their disciples could be heard. Yang Kai and a group of High Heaven Pavilion disciples walked towards the 5 great elders. The 3 sect masters formed their own groups and did not interfere with each other. Brother Yang. Just as Yang Kai was waiting for Wei Shitong to speak, Sassafras led Li Yuntian and the others over from the side. You also came? Yang Kai smiled slightly. Sassafras smiled. Such a big matter, we naturally came to see the excitement. Li Yuntian asked, Brother, where did you go these past few days? How come you disappeared for 20 days? Yang Kai explained, I went out to do some things. I have to thank you, junior brother, for helping me clean the wooden house. Li Yuntian and the others were stunned. We only helped you clean the floor, but we didn't clean the wooden house. This group of lazy people don't even fold their blankets when they wake up every day. How could they clean the wooden house? Sassafras laughed. You didn't? Yang Kai's heart skipped a beat. Then why was his wooden house so clean and spotless? Silence! Everyone be silent! Wei Shitong suddenly shouted with a straight face. The nearly 2,000 High Heaven Pavilion disciples who had gathered here immediately quieted down, all of them looking at him expectantly. Everyone knew that the matter the Great Elder was going to talk about would definitely be related to the Heaven's Cave inheritance. Sure enough, Wei Shitong lightly coughed, looked around, and said, "You should already know what happened here and what kind of opportunity this is. The Heaven's Cave inheritance has been passed down for a long time, but not only have we not seen it, even in the entire Great Han Dynasty, not a single one has appeared in the past 1,000 years. We also don't know what kind of cultivation level the expert who can condense the Heaven's Cave inheritance has. But this is indeed a treasure trove that can rival an entire country. There are pills, secret manuals, treasures, and most importantly, the inheritance of that expert." The disciples were in an uproar, their eyes burning with passion and their breathing becoming rapid. Wei Shitong continued, "But at the same time, there are countless hidden restrictions and dangers. The slightest carelessness will result in the destruction of one's soul." This sentence was like a bucket of cold water poured over their heads, causing many people's excitement to fade. "Benefits are not taken for free," Wei Shitong coldly snorted. "Once you enter, you must first disregard life and death. Let me ask you, even so, do you still want to go in?" The whole place was silent. Wei Shitong's oppressive gaze swept over the disciples, but when it fell on Yang Kai, his pupils couldn't help but shrink, and he immediately swept his gaze over them again. After a while, someone said, "Great Elder, wouldn't it be a pity to miss such a great opportunity? Even if it is extremely dangerous, we still have to risk our lives. This is something we may not encounter in our entire life. How can we miss it? We want to go in." The High Heaven Pavilion disciples were excited, and many of them were excited. Under the temptation of the Heaven's Cave inheritance, all restrictions and dangers were no longer in their minds. As the saying goes, people die for wealth and birds die for food. Good. Wei Shitong nodded with satisfaction. "My High Heaven Pavilion disciples should be fearless in the face of danger. This old man is very pleased that you all have this awareness. All disciples listen. Those above 30 years old, step out." A large group of High Heaven Pavilion disciples walked out, and the number of people immediately decreased by about 40%. Wei Shitong looked at them with some pity and said, You can't enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance. This place denies entry to those above 30 years old, and it also denies entry to those above the Immortal Ascension boundary cultivator. How can this be?" The group of disciples suddenly became depressed. "Don't be noisy, this Heaven's Cave inheritance was left by a senior expert, and the restrictions were also set by him. He naturally has his reasons for doing so." Second Elder Su Xianwu timely rebuked. Although he and Great Elder had always been at odds, this matter was related to High Heaven Pavilion's interests and even its future, so he naturally wouldn't undermine him now. Wei Shitong shouted again, "Disciples below the initial element boundary, step out." Another group of people walked out. "Although you all have the qualifications to enter, you are not allowed to go." Wei Shitong looked at them and said in a deep voice, "There are many dangers inside, and your strength is too low. If you go in, it's tantamount to suicide." This group of people was self-aware, so they naturally didn't dare to complain about such an arrangement. After the two conditions were met, there were only 300 to 400 people left. Wei Shitong looked at the remaining group of people and said, "If there are any of you who don't dare to enter, you can leave now. The sect won't force you to enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance. Everything is voluntary, and you can't blame others whether you live or die." No one left. In the face of the temptation of the Heaven's Cave inheritance, who wouldn't be tempted? Wei Shitong waited for a long time before he smiled and said, "Since you all have chosen to enter, this old man will tell you all the information about this place, so that you can be mentally prepared." First, Su Yen and the other two went in to investigate the situation inside. Although they didn't know much, the information they obtained wasn't enough to cause the disciples of the three sects to panic. Yang Kai listened carefully and found out that although there was only one entrance to the Heaven's Cave inheritance, everyone would appear in a different position after entering. The world energy inside was also very abundant, very suitable for cultivation. Moreover, there were some special exits in the Heaven's Cave inheritance. If the disciples felt that something was wrong, they could leave the Heaven's Cave inheritance through these exits. Because Su Yen and the others had only explored for half a day, they didn't find much information, so Wei Shitong didn't say much. In the end, Wei Shitong said, because this place was first discovered by the blood group, they will first send 50 people in. After half a day, the disciples of High Heaven Pavilion and Storm House will enter. What I want to tell you is that this time, not only must you be careful of the restrictions and traps inside, you must also be on guard against the disciples of the other two sects. Don't find a treasure but don't have the fortune to enjoy it. Hearing this, everyone's heart couldn't help but tremble. In their minds, they couldn't help but think of the scene of killing and robbing. Disciples of High Heaven Pavilion, if you meet inside, you must help each other and support each other to overcome the difficulties together. Do you understand? The disciples replied. First, disperse and find a place to rest. Wait for the blood group to act first. When the time comes, I will gather you again. After Wei Shitong finished speaking, he gently waved his hand. The 300 to 400 disciples quickly dispersed and found a suitable place to meditate and recover. Li Yuntian walked over with a sullen face. He looked at Sassafras and Yang Kai with a face full of envy. Young Master Su, Brother Yang, I can't go in. His strength was only at tempered body 9th level, not even at the initial element realm. Sassafras laughed. Who told you not to cultivate diligently? Serves you right. Look at Brother Yang. Every day, he diligently and painstakingly trains. Now, he is already at the initial element realm. What level is he? The last sentence was directed at Yang Kai. 7th level. Yang Kai pinched his nose. Sassafras and Li Yuntian were stunned. They looked at him as if they were looking at a monster. After a long time, they recovered. Their faces showed that they had suffered a great blow. I better hurry up and cultivate. Sassafras hung his head dejectedly. Brother Yang, you should hurry up and recover. I won't disturb you. Li Yuntian tactfully left. Yang Kai nodded. He then found a quiet place nearby and sat down cross-legged. He closed his eyes and waited for the moment to arrive. Chapter 125. Yang Kai was secretly rejoicing in his heart. Fortunately, he had spent a lot of money to buy a lot of yang inflammation stones. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the confidence to enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance. Now, the Dantian had nearly 50 drops of yang liquid, which should be enough. But he didn't know what kind of dangers he would encounter in the Heaven's Cave inheritance. While meditating, Yang Kai felt as if someone was looking at him. He quickly opened his eyes and saw Su Yen a few dozen feet away. He didn't know what she was saying to Sassafras, but the latter nodded slightly with a dignified expression. His eyes flashed, but Yang Kai didn't care. Suddenly, there was a movement from the blood group side. It was the 50 people who were selected to enter the cave inheritance ahead of time. This was the result of the discussion between the three sections. High Heaven Pavilion and Storm House wanted to get a share of the Heaven's Cave inheritance. Hu Man and the others couldn't stop them, but they couldn't let these two sects take advantage of them. Therefore, the result of the discussion was that each of the two sects would compensate the blood group with 1 million silvers. In addition, the blood group would send 50 people to enter the cave inheritance first. After half a day, the High Heaven Pavilion and Storm House disciples could enter. Both High Heaven Pavilion and Storm House also agreed to this condition. Yang Kai looked around and found that these 50 people should be the elites of the blood group. This time, they would enter the cave inheritance first. If there was something good inside, they would undoubtedly be the first to discover it. Hu Mei Air and Hu Jiao Air, who he knew, were also among them. They were surrounded by the disciples of the blood group like stars surrounding the moon. These two sisters were like twins. Each of them was a first-class beauty. Both of them appeared together, side by side. Their lethality was incomparable. They attracted the attention of many male disciples. Everyone was thinking that if they could have one of them, they wouldn't have lived in vain. The 50 people of the blood group arrived in front of the big pit. Under the protection of the experts of the blood group, one by one, they jumped down and disappeared. While the group of blood group continued to enter the inheritance cave, from the direction of High Heaven Pavilion, a beautiful figure suddenly flew over. This person hurriedly flew all the way and directly arrived at the top of the mine. Man and the others angrily shouted, "Who are you?" They thought that someone wanted to fish in troubled waters and enter the inheritance cave together with the blood group. "What are you screaming for?" Meng Wuya angrily glared at the experts of the blood group. Then he waved his hand and said, "Disciple, come here." Only then did Man and the others know that this person was actually the crazy old man's disciple. Looking over, Man sighed. Sure enough, it was as he had guessed. It was a woman. Although her face was covered by a veil, her clear and innocent eyes and her graceful and enchanting figure were clearly not something an ordinary woman could possess. What shocked Man even more was that this young woman actually had the strength of the Yuan-Chi realm. "Elder Long, this is a good thing that Long Hui provoked." Man looked at Long Zai Tian with deep meaning, very dissatisfied. Long Zai Tian's eyes were filled with bone-deep hatred as he stared at the pair of master and disciple in the sky, but he felt so powerless. He had already experienced Meng Wuya's profound strength and knew that he had no hope of revenge in this life. Recalling the humiliation he had suffered half a day ago, he suddenly felt sad and spat out a mouthful of blood. The person who came was naturally Xia Ningchang. She was in seclusion in the High Heaven Pavilion. After receiving Meng Wuya's message, she hurriedly rushed over. Before she could figure out the situation, she saw thousands of people staring at her. For a moment, she was scared and quickly moved closer to her master. "There is an opportunity below, you go," Meng Wuya lightly said while pointing at the Heaven's Cave inheritance. "Oh." Xia Ningchang obediently nodded. She glanced at the hologram below and then turned her head to look around as if she was looking for someone. But at this moment, the sky was already dark and there were so many disciples of the three sects gathered around. She couldn't find the person she was looking for. Until Meng Wuya urged her again, Xia Ningchang bit her lip and rushed into the Heaven's Cave inheritance. She actually entered before many of the blood group disciples. From beginning to end, the people of the blood group just quietly watched. No one dared to stop her. Wei Shitong and the others were stunned. They never knew that the shopkeeper of the contribution hall could be so domineering. Facing the entire blood group alone, he was still calm and composed. He didn't care about the agreement between the three sections. With just a few words, he allowed his disciple to enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance. Man and the others turned a blind eye. What's going on? Xiao Ruahan also didn't understand. He frowned and said in a clear voice, "Clan leader what's going on? Isn't this inconsistent with the agreement? Why can the people of the High Heaven Pavilion enter together with your disciples?" Man couldn't wait to find a needle and sew up Xiao Ruahan's mouth. Meng Wuya was so rude and unreasonable that he lost face. He just wanted to pretend that he didn't see it. The less trouble, the better. In any case, it was just one more outsider entering. It didn't matter much. It could be considered as giving Meng Wuya face and resolving the dispute between him and the blood group. But he didn't think that Xiao Ruahan would bring up the pot that didn't boil. Meng Wuya sneered but didn't say anything. Helpless, Man coughed lightly and had no choice but to explain. "It's like this. It was all thanks to this senior's ability that the restrictions here were broken. Therefore, his disciple also has the qualifications to enter first." Xiao Ruahan sneered. Why didn't clan leader mention this matter when the three sects were discussing it? Man was speechless. How could he mention it? He didn't know that this crazy old man would do this. He was innocent. "Clan leader are you bullying my stormhouse? If the disciples of the High Heaven Pavilion can enter first, why can't my stormhouse disciples?" Xiao Ruahan pressed. "F***ck your grandmother." Man angrily cursed. He turned his head and looked around. He saw the last disciple of the blood group who was about to enter the hologram. Man quickly shouted, "You, don't go in. Leave a spot for this senior's disciple." Unfortunately, the last person to enter was Long Zai Tian's grandson, Long Jun. Long Jun was originally full of excitement and expectation to enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance. He dreamt of obtaining the inheritance of this senior and leaping over the dragon gate. But this shout made him stunned. He turned his head and looked at Long Zai Tian. The latter took a deep breath and slowly closed his eyes. He said, "Since clan leader said so, Jun, you will wait for half a day." Long Jun gritted his teeth and reluctantly replied, "Clan leader Xiao, you have nothing to say." Hu Man said angrily, "This senior's disciple is occupying one of the spots of my blood group." Xiao Ruahan frowned. He didn't understand what was going on. He didn't want to be entangled with Hu Man, so he just snorted and turned his face away. Wei Shitong saw everything and said emotionally, "It seems that Hu Man is very afraid of Treasurer Meng." Su Xianwu chuckled, "We underestimated this treasurer's ability." Hu Man looked up at Meng Wuya and said with a smile, "Senior, are you satisfied?" Meng Wuya laughed strangely, "Satisfied or not, wait until my precious disciple comes out. This old man will say the ugly words first. If she encounters something bad inside, don't blame this old man for turning hostile." Hu Man's face changed. He could only laugh and nod, "Not really. Fuck, I have to tell my disciples that if they meet that little girl, they have to take good care of her and not let her encounter any danger." Without delay, Hu Man hurriedly passed down the order. Many of the blood group disciples obeyed. Meng Wuya's strength surprised all the disciples of High Heaven Pavilion. They didn't expect that the contribution hall's treasurer, who was usually lecherous, was actually such a tyrannical person. Even the blood group's leader, Hu Man, was as obedient as a rabbit in front of him. Even the great elder, Wei Shitong, didn't have this kind of ability. The atmosphere of the scene was lively for a while before it returned to normal. The disciples of the three factions were seizing the time to recover and wait for the second half of the night to enter the cave inheritance. I don't know how many disciples will die inside this time, and how many will return with benefits. The second elder, Su Xianwu, suddenly sighed. But those who can come out with benefits will certainly become the pillars of the three factions in the future. Wei Shitong's eyes flashed with longing. "I hope so." The night was quiet. Wind and frost hung on the treetops. Time slowly passed. Suddenly, the three factions' leaders moved. Along with their shouts, the disciples who were preparing to enter the cave inheritance woke up. Time had come. The group of blood group elites had already entered for half a day. Now, the majority of them were going to enter. On the side of High Heaven Pavilion, Xie Hongchen and Su Yen took the lead. Behind them, the disciples who were preparing to enter the cave inheritance lined up and walked towards the light curtain. Yang Kai and Sassafras walked together. It could be seen that Sassafras was very nervous, constantly rubbing his hands. Yang Kai was also nervous, but he was more excited and looking forward to it. "It would be good if we could meet inside." Sassafras whispered. "I hope so," but the great elder also said that after entering the light curtain, it seems that everyone's place is not the same. The probability of meeting is very small. "Brother, what kind of inheritance do you think will be inside?" "How would I know? What dangers will there be inside?" "I don't know. I'm so nervous." Originally, Yang Kai was not so nervous, but after hearing Sassafras's whispers, his mood became tense. In front of them, the leaders of the three factions had each occupied a position and were arranging for their disciples to enter the Heaven's Cave inheritance. The light curtain was very large, so the speed at which the disciples entered was not slow. After a while, it was Yang Kai and Sassafras' turn. The two looked at each other and jumped down. Yang Kai narrowed his eyes. He wanted to see what kind of changes would happen to his body, but when his body fell into the light curtain, his vision blurred. Immediately, he found himself in midair, about 5 feet from the ground. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai steadily landed. Standing still, he turned his head and looked around. This was a very strange space. There was no sun, no moon, no star field, no white clouds, and no blue sky. It was as if there was nothing above his head. The silence made him panic. But there was light here, so he could see what was inside. Chapter 126. The place where Kai Yang landed seemed to be a rocky mound, surrounded by thick and thin stone pillars that stood between heaven and earth. The stone pillars varied in height, some were tens of feet high, some were only as tall as a person, and the ground was full of gravel and sand. Feeling around slightly, Yang Kai's expression brightened. He found that the world energy here was extremely rich, completely incomparable to the outside world. If he could meditate here, his efficiency would definitely be 3 or 4 times higher than outside. However, this was only the Heaven's Cave inheritance. No one would choose to give up on the unknown treasures and choose to cultivate here. Sassafras wasn't with him. There was no one else around. Presumably everyone had already scattered when they entered. Just as he was concentrating on investigating, a figure suddenly appeared a dozen meters away. This person was just like Yang Kai when he first entered, appearing out of thin air a few meters above the ground and then landing. After standing still, she turned her head to look around and saw Yang Kai not far away. When their eyes met, Yang Kai was surprised. "It's you!" "Oh, what a coincidence!" The person was also somewhat happy and quickly walked over to Yang Kai. This person was a woman. She was the senior sister who sold Yang Kai the seed at Black Wind Trade. They were all from the same sect, so it was fate that they met here. "You're the only one?" the woman asked. "And I also just came in," Yang Kai nodded. "So many people entered together, I don't know where they were scattered. Should we wait here a little longer and see if anyone else has settled down here? Then we can act together?" she suggested. "That's fine." Yang Kai didn't object. This place was full of dangers, so one more person meant one more strength. Although this would give away the benefits, in this strange place, it was naturally more important to protect their lives first. They would wait and investigate the situation. If it was appropriate, it wouldn't be too late to act alone. After the two finished discussing, they stood in place and waited. Not long after, 3 more people landed nearby. However, only one of these 3 was a High Heaven Pavilion disciple. As for the remaining 2, one was from Blood Group and the other was from Storm House. The 5 of them gathered together. In this special place, there wasn't too much of a difference between sects and clans, and they could be considered harmonious with each other. After waiting for a while, no one else appeared. The woman said, "How about this? Let's explore and see if we can find anyone else who is alone. What do you think?" Her tone and demeanor were full of confidence, making her look somewhat flamboyant and beautiful. Everyone nodded. The woman said, "But before that, we need to familiarize ourselves with each other. At the very least, we need to know how strong each of us is. Only then would it be easier for everyone to move around. Let me introduce myself first. My name is Lan Chudai, High Heaven Pavilion's disciple, Chi Transformation Stage 7th level. What about you guys?" After that, she looked at the 4 people with her beautiful eyes. The High Heaven Pavilion's disciple quickly said, "Senior sister, I have heard of your name before. Seeing you today, I didn't expect senior sister to be such a beautiful person." This flattery was too obvious. Yang Kai and the other 2 couldn't help but look at him with disdain in their hearts. This brat obviously had a good impression of Lan Chudai. That's why he couldn't wait to interrupt. It was no wonder that Lan Chudai was so beautiful, and her figure was so enchanting. Especially the pair of jade peaks in front of her chest, it was as if they didn't belong to this world. If anyone could have her, just playing with those jade peaks would be enough for them to enjoy themselves every night. Lan Chudai smiled and didn't care. She looked at him and said, "You are..." The man puffed out his chest and sucked in his stomach, pretending to be mature and reliable. He said in a sonorous voice, "Junior brother Nye Yong, Great Elder's disciple. Chi Transformation Stage 4th level." After that, he smiled and said, "Senior sister, rest assured. If there is any danger along the way, junior brother will go through water and tread on fire to help senior sister get rid of all difficulties. Junior brother is so considerate." Lan Chudai smiled sweetly, her beauty captivating. She immediately turned her gaze to the other person. This man was like an iron tower. He had the waist of a bear and the back of a tiger. He was taller than Yang Kai by a head. He had a rough appearance and seemed simple and honest. Seeing Lan Chudai looking at him, he said, My name is Xianxia, Blood Group's disciple, Qi Transformation Stage 5th level. After that, he closed his mouth. Obviously, he didn't like to talk too much. Lan Chudai nodded slightly and turned her gaze to the other woman. This woman was very slender and not very tall. She looked very delicate and pretty. From beginning to end, there was a trace of shyness on her face. My name is Du Yishuang. I am from Storm House. You can call me junior sister Du, brother and senior sister all call me that. I am at Qi Transformation Stage 6th level. Several people looked at her with some surprise. Junior sister Du couldn't help but lower her head. No one would have thought that this 14 or 15-year-old girl would have the strength of Qi Transformation Stage 6th level. She was only one level lower than Lan Chudai, who was the highest in the group. Well, this is interesting. Lan Chudai suddenly smiled. Is it possible that when we enter this place, we are transported according to our strength? Listening to her, the others also pondered. Among the 4 people here, Lan Chudai was the leader. She was at Qi Transformation Stage 7th level, 6th level, 5th level and 4th level respectively. There was not much difference between them. It was no wonder that she made such an inference. Right, what about you? What is the Qi transforming stage? Lan Chudai looked up at Kai Yang and asked. Although these people's strength was higher than Yang Kai, because they did not have divine sense, unless Yang Kai exposed his Yuan Qi fluctuations, they would not be able to see the depth of Yang Kai's strength. Moreover, because these people were in the Qi transformation stage, Lan Chudai instinctively thought that Yang Kai was also in the Qi transformation stage. Yang Kai pinched his nose and said with some embarrassment, "My name is Yang Kai, a disciple of High Heaven Pavilion, initial element stage 7th level." Xuan turned his head and looked at him. His eyes could not help but show some contempt. He bowed his head and spat, "Bad luck? You are Yang Kai?" Lan Chudai looked at him in surprise. Even Ye Yong was very surprised. He looked at Yang Kai from head to toe as if he wanted to carefully examine him several times. Yang Kai nodded. He knew that after the last incident, his name had become very popular in High Heaven Pavilion, so he didn't try to hide it. However, Yang Kai was keenly aware that when Ye Yong heard his name, a trace of hostility flashed in his eyes. On the other hand, Lan Chudi's eyes were full of interest as if she had discovered something new. Yang Kai had already expected that Nye Yong would be hostile to him. Since he was a disciple of the Great Elder, he should be in the same group as Wei Zhuan and Xie Hongqian. Previously, he had offended Wei Zhuan and had to face Xie Hongqian. It would be strange if he did not bear a grudge. However, in Heaven's Cave Inheritance, Yang Kai estimated that he would not dare to act rashly, so he did not need to care about him. Retracting her gaze, Lan Chudai clapped her hands and said, "Well, since everyone is familiar with each other, let's go. We don't know where the treasures are hidden here. Let's make things clear first. If we find something good, we will divide it according to how much effort we put in. If we can't divide it, we will exchange it with silver or other items. How about it?" Nye Yong quickly nodded. "Senior sister Lan, you can make the decision." Yang Kai and Xuan did not object. As for Du Yishuang, she did not refute. Lan Chudai was a woman of her own mind. In just a few words, she had established her position as the leader of this small group of 5. When Yang Kai made the deal with her, he only knew that she was a person who did not want to make a loss. But now, it seems that this woman was also an ambitious person. She would not be willing to submit to others. "Then let's go. I will lead the way. Every 2 hours, we will change to another person to lead the way." Lan Chudai took the lead and led the way. The others hurriedly followed. Nye Yong stood side by side with Lan Chudai. While walking, he did his best to curry favor with her. All kinds of praises came out of his mouth and were thrown at Lan Chudai as if they were free. Lan Chudai always had a smile on her face. Occasionally, she would reply with a few words. She appeared to be very gentle, which made Nye Yong even more excited. Xuan followed behind them. Listening to the corny words, he could not help but roll his eyes. Yang Kai was in the last position. After a few steps, Du Yishuang slowed down and pulled him to her side. She whispered to Yang Kai, "Don't mind it. If you practice well, you will definitely reach the qi transforming stage. Yang Kai turned his head and looked at her. I don't mind. Dui Shuang's face turned red. She thought that Yang Kai was silent because of Xuan's disdain. She wanted to comfort him, but she thought that it was unrequited love. Ha, you look younger than me. How did you become so strong? Yang Kai had a good impression of Dui Shuang. Although she was a disciple of Stormhouse, she was gentle and kind. He did not know her, but she actually came to comfort him. I am 19 years old. How can I be younger than you? Du Yishuang softly explained. Yang Kai really hadn't noticed, causing him to feel quite embarrassed. In this small group of 5, 2 were in front and 2 were laughing softly while the other 2 were at the back. Xuan was sandwiched in the middle. As they walked, Yang Kai suddenly felt a reaction from the origin of Yang on his chest. He could not help but look in front of him. He could feel that there were some Yang attribute things more than 100 feet away. The 5 of them were heading in that direction. There was no need for him to remind them. After a while, Lan Chudai, who was leading the way, suddenly exclaimed in surprise. Nie Yong also quickly looked in front of them. Yang inflammation stone? In stone? There was a large pile of stones in front of them. These were not ordinary stones, but Yang inflammation stone and In stone. These stones were similar to the stones sold by the blood group in the Black Wind trade. Even the size was similar. Each stone was worth 500 taels. There were more than 1,000 stones in this pile. In total, they were worth 500,000 taels. The 5 of them were not very rich in their respective sections. Who had seen 500,000 taels of wealth? Chapter 127. For a time, the 5 people's breathing became somewhat rapid. Lan Chudai said, "Let's check the surroundings to see if there is any danger." Lan Chudai was calm. She knew that this place was not an ordinary place. With such a large amount of wealth placed here, it might be a trap. The 5 people quickly dispersed and checked the surroundings. After a while, they gathered together again but did not find anything. Lan Chudai was still not at ease. She vigilantly sent out a few palms to hit the pile of Yang inflammation stones and Yin primordial stones. She did not find anything unusual. She nodded and said, "There is no danger." The 5 people looked at each other and quickly stepped forward to pick up the pile of Yang inflammation stones and Yin primordial stones. The others picked up both types of stones. However, Yang Kai was different. He only picked up the Yang inflammation stones. Picking up the stones, Lan Chudai suddenly laughed at herself. She straightened her back and looked at the stone in her hand with some reluctance. She sighed and threw it away. "Senior sister Lan, what's wrong?" Nie Yong asked with some doubts. "Don't pick them up." Lan Chudai faintly said, "If we carry a large bag of stones, not only will it consume our strength, but it will also become a burden if we encounter danger." Hearing this, the others finally came to their senses. They had been too excited to see so much wealth just now and had forgotten about this. Lan Chudai looked at everyone and continued, "Moreover, we found a pile of stones just as we arrived here. If my guess is correct, these stones are the lowest value in this place. In other words, these are just small profits. The real treasure is still waiting for us." Senior sister Lan is right. Nie Yong agreed. Xuan also nodded slightly. Du Yishuang looked at the stones in her hands and reluctantly threw them away. Only Yang Kai was still picking up the stones as if he did not hear Lan Chudai's words. Lan Chudai could not help but frown. "Oh, it is not too late to throw them away when we encounter danger," Yang Kai explained while picking up the stones. Lan Chudai did not stop him and said lightly, "But we will not delay because of you. Once you have picked up enough, catch up. Don't be too greedy." "Alright, you guys go first." Yang Kai nodded. Lan Chudai no longer hesitated. She stepped over the pile of stones and walked forward. Xuan looked at Yang Kai with contempt. Nie Yong was even more direct. He spat, "You're just a pauper who has never seen the world. Sooner or later, you'll still get lost. It's a waste of time and effort." "I'll wait for you," Du Yishuang said. "No need, you go first," Yang Kai said as he took off his shirt. It seemed that he was going to pick up everything. Seeing his insistence, Du Yishuang didn't insist. She nodded and caught up with the others. After confirming that there was no one around, Yang Kai was no longer so reserved, and the true Yang secret art began to circulate wildly. While rapidly absorbing the energy from the Yang inflammation stone, he stuffed it into a bag made of clothes. Not long after, there were 20 more drops of Yang liquid in the dantian, and his bag was also full. This should be enough. Although there were still a lot of bright Yang stones here, Yang Kai didn't want to collect all of them. After all, he couldn't be too greedy. Lan Chudi's words weren't wrong. This pile of bright Yang stones was probably the least valuable thing here. Naturally, he couldn't waste too much time on them. After an incense stick's worth of time, Yang Kai finally caught up with the 4 people. During this time, Yang Kai had absorbed the energy from several Yang inflammation stones. After meeting up with them, except for Du Yishuang, the other 3 looked at Yang Kai with a somewhat unpleasant expression. In terms of strength, Yang Kai was the weakest in the group. He was not even at the qi transforming stage. It was no wonder that others looked down on him. If it weren't for the fact that he was from the same sect, Lan Chudai and Ye Yong would not have brought Yang Kai along. This pile of stones seems to be very big. We still haven't walked out of it. Lan Chudai frowned. Let's check it out again. If we still can't get out, then we will find a place to rest. Everyone had listened to Lan Chudai's instructions. Naturally, at this moment, they would not refute. 2 hours have passed. Who will lead the way now? Lan Chudai's pair of beautiful eyes swept over the 4 people. In the end, they didn't know what dangers there were, but no matter what, the person in the front was undoubtedly in the worst situation. That was why she had suggested a different person to lead the way every 2 hours. Nye Yong said, "There are disciples from all 3 sects here. High Heaven Pavilion has already sent a person. Next, Blood Group or Stormhouse will lead the way." Saying this, he glanced at Zhuan and Du Yishuang. Zhuan frowned, but before he could speak, Du Yishuang jumped out and whispered, "Let me do it." Yang Kai sighed slightly. Although the 5 of them had temporarily formed a small team, Du Yishuang was the only one who didn't scheme. The other 4, including Yang Kai, had their own plans. This team was not united at all. If they encountered too much danger, they would immediately fall apart. After walking for about an hour, a large open space suddenly appeared in front of them. From the moment they entered until now, they had been surrounded by many stone pillars. Now that they finally saw a place that was a little different, they were naturally very excited. Under the leadership of Du Yishuang, the 5 people quickly approached the stone pillars. Not long after, they arrived at the location of the open space. This place was still a stone pillar, but for some reason, it was different from the other places. In this open space, there were many lifelike stone sculptures. All of them were stone sculptures of human shapes. These stone sculptures were about the height of a real person. Some of them were bare-handed, while others were holding weapons. The weapons were also various and strange. After a rough count, there were no less than 100 of these stone sculptures, all of them of different shapes. The 5 of them didn't dare to rush in. Lan Chudai and Ye Yong probed the area and found that there was no danger. Then, Du Yishuang led them into the group of stone sculptures. For no reason, Yang Kai felt a sense of uneasiness in his heart. This feeling was very sudden, but it was so real. Yang Kai's heart could not help but beat faster. He turned his head to look at the other people. Their expressions were normal. Everyone was amazed by the lifelike stone sculptures. Looking around, Yang Kai suddenly saw a dark red color behind a stone sculpture. A faint smell of blood floated in the air. Next to the dark red color, there was a piece of cloth. It should be a person's clothes. Danger! It was too late to explain. Kai Yang hurriedly roared. At the same time, the hundreds of stone sculptures in the surrounding area began to move. The other 4 people were scared out of their wits. Lan Chudai, Nye Yong, and Zhuan reacted quickly and turned back without looking back. On the contrary, Du Yishuang, who was leading the way, was stunned. This stunned her and made her miss a good opportunity to retreat. The two stone sculptures beside her raised their fists and fiercely smashed towards her. The attack power of these stone sculptures was very strong. Their fists were as big as a clay pot. If she was hit by one of them, it would be very uncomfortable. Du Yishuang sensed that something was wrong. Her yuan qi suddenly became violent. The originally quiet and kind girl gave birth to a kind of crazy aura. This was the sign of the qi transformation stage. At the stage, the yuan qi in the body was very unstable. Normally, it would not be seen. However, once a fight broke out, the yuan qi would become violent. Especially when angry, the violent yuan qi could easily affect a person's temperament. If it was not controlled well, one would lose oneself in this crazy power. However, although Du Yishuang's yuan qi was violent, her eyes were calm. It was obvious that she was very good at controlling her strength. She turned around and slammed her small palm towards the stone sculpture on the left. At the same time, she quickly retreated to avoid the attack of the other stone sculpture. However, she lost the best opportunity. The second stone sculpture's attack was very fast and was about to fall on her slender shoulder. While she was panicking, a few pieces of fiery red yang inflammation stones flew towards her like meteors. With a huge force, they hit the second stone sculpture's fist. Even though they were unable to stop the second stone statue's attack, they were able to deflect its fist slightly. The fist brushed past Du Yishuang's clothes and hit the air, saving her from serious injury. "Go!" Yang Kai's voice came from behind. Immediately, Du Yishuang felt her body become light. It was as if someone had grabbed her collar and pulled her back. At the same time, a hand stretched out from behind her and blocked the first stone sculpture's attack. With a muffled sound, Yang Kai and Du Yishuang were both sent flying. They fell to the ground and quickly ran away without looking back. Behind them, a rumbling sound could be heard. It was as if thousands of horses were galloping. The five people quickly turned their heads and looked back. They could not help but feel a chill in their hearts. More than 100 stone sculptures were chasing after them. Each of them was as fast as the wind. The heavy stone sculptures stepped on the ground, causing the ground to tremble. "Don't look back. Quickly run around the stone pillars," Lan Chudai shouted. The few of them understood tacitly and hurriedly shuttled back and forth between the stone pillars like butterflies. After a while, they got rid of most of the stone sculptures. After a while, many more were left behind. Only the two stone sculptures that had attacked Du Yishuang were still chasing after Yang Kai and Du Yishuang like locusts. They did not seem to have any intention of stopping. "Yang Kai, you bastard! Don't lead them to me!" Nie Yong shouted as he rushed forward. Yang Kai's face sank. He ignored Nie Yong. Lan Chudai lightly jumped on top of a stone pillar. She turned her head and saw that there were no stone sculptures chasing after them. She stared at the two stone sculptures behind Yang Kai and Du Yishuang. Her beautiful eyes flashed. Her expression was somewhat hesitant. However, after a moment, she made up her mind and shouted to the people below. "Don't run. There are only two of them. We will break them." The group was circling around a place. When they heard Lan Chudi's words, they were shocked. Just now, Yang Kai and Du Yishuang were able to resist their attacks. It shows that their strength is not very high. Lan Chudi's tone was filled with confidence. She commanded proudly, "Zhuan, you hold one of them. The other four of us will attack the other one." Zhuan frowned but did not say anything. He quickly turned around. Accompanied by a roar, his huge fist surged with yuan qi. He smashed it towards one of the stone sculptures. This stone sculpture was chasing after Yang Kai and Du Yishuang. It was caught off guard by Zhuan's punch. Stone fragments flew everywhere and the sculpture staggered. Chapter 128. His strength was really not high. Zhuan's expression suddenly calmed down as he single-handedly blocked one of the stone sculptures in its place. Yang Kai and Du Yishuang led the other stone sculpture and ran 100 feet away. They looked at each other and hurriedly stopped to face the stone sculpture. Du Yishuang did not know what kind of martial arts she used, but her palms were shining with golden light. She hit the stone sculpture, causing it to stagger. Apparently, the stone sculpture did not feel pain. Even though it was in a difficult situation, it still fiercely fought back. Du Yishuang quickly jumped away, and Yang Kai took the opportunity to attack. His palms whistled as he once again gave the stone sculpture some minor injuries. At this time, Lan Chudai and Ye Yong also arrived. The former did not say a word and joined the battle. Nye Yong glared at Yang Kai as if blaming him for leading the stone sculpture to chase after him. One had to admit that Lan Chudai had some observation skills. She was able to judge the strength of the stone sculpture just by looking at Yang Kai and Du Yishuang's attacks. The stone sculpture's attack was very powerful. After all, its body was made of stone. Its punch had the strength of a few thousand kilograms. However, it could not withstand a beating. Moreover, its reaction was very slow. Although it had some speed, it could not pose a threat to anyone present. Under the siege, the stone sculpture's body cracked and became tattered. Seeing that victory was in sight, the four people's attacks became fiercer and fiercer. Not long after, this stone sculpture was actually beaten into pieces of rubble. None of the four people were injured. However, the consumption of yuan qi was quite large. Lan Chudai quickly stepped forward and looked for the stone sculpture. However, she could not find anything. She could not help but frown and murmured, "Strange." In her opinion, there must be a mystery behind why these lifeless stone sculptures could move. However, she could not find anything, which made her somewhat disappointed. "Let's go to Zuan's place." Lan Chudai did not delay. She led the others back to the original path. On the other side, Zuan was circling around the stone sculpture. At the beginning, Zuan fought with it a few times. He found that he was not its opponent in terms of strength. His fists were broken and he learned to be obedient. Lan Chudai only asked him to restrain the enemy, not kill them. Just as Zuan was feeling restless, Lan Chudai and the others appeared. Without making a sound, they all charged towards the stone statue. With his previous experience, it was much easier for him to deal with the stone sculptures. Not to mention he had Zuan as his combat strength. In less than 10 minutes, the stone sculpture was once again smashed into pieces. The five of them were gasping for breath. Although this battle wasn't life-threatening, it had consumed a lot of their energy. "Yang Kai, what do you mean?" Nye Yong glared at Yang Kai. "Don't think that I won't dare to make a move on you just because we are from the same sect." "What?" Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. "Why did you lead those two stone sculptures to chase after me?" "Is that so?" Kai Yang's eyes flashed, a trace of impatience appearing on his calm face. Just now, he only cared about running away. Why would he care about others? "Don't be noisy." Lan Chudai put on the airs of a senior sister and glared at the two of them. She then walked towards the rubble to investigate. "Remember this. If you use such underhanded means again, don't blame me for being impolite." Nye Yong's expression was cold. "Hey!" Lan Chudai suddenly cried out in surprise. She then reached out and fiddled with the rubble. She picked up a small stone man the size of a baby's fist. Her surprised voice attracted everyone's attention, and they quickly turned their heads to look at her hand. The small stone man was not big, but they did not know what material it was carved from. It was crystal clear and looked as beautiful as a piece of jade. Inside the small stone man, there were red lines that intersected and shuttled back and forth. At a rough count, there were more than 30 red lines. "This is..." Zuan was amazed. He stared at the small stone man without blinking. Yang Kai and Du Yishuang also came over. The five of them formed a circle. Everyone's eyes were full of doubts. "What kind of jade is this small stone man?" Nye Yong asked excitedly. "It doesn't look like it." Lan Chudai shook her head. Although she did not know the material of the stone man, she did not feel any energy from the small stone man. However, there were some mysterious red lines that seemed to be circulating in a circular manner. "What do you think?" Lan Chudai looked at the others. "Can we use this thing to control the stone sculptures?" Zuan suddenly thought of a possibility. Everyone's eyes lit up, but Lan Chudai immediately denied it. "It shouldn't be." Of the two stone sculptures just now, one of them did not have a small stone man. "Even if it is, as you said, The stone sculpture just now has already been destroyed. How can we control it? Yang Kai's expression changed. He suddenly said, "Don't you think that the red lines inside are similar to something?" "What?" "Don't interrupt if you don't know anything. You are just an initial element realm cultivator, yet you dare to criticize us?" Nie Yong retorted. He did not like Yang Kai. Yang Kai's mouth curled into a sneer. Although his temperament wasn't bad, he couldn't remain indifferent after being repeatedly provoked. Lan Chudai noticed the subtle atmosphere between the two and quickly mediated. "Don't make trouble. Yang Kai, what do you think it looks like?" Yang Kai's eyes flickered. "Don't you think that these red lines are similar to the meridians in our body?" "Do I need you to say that? I have already seen it." Nie Yong sneered. Lan Chudai looked at Yang Kai with shining eyes. "You mean, the way these red lines operate should be a kind of martial arts practice method?" Yang Kai said with certainty. "What a joke." Nie Yong was about to say something when Du Yishuang suddenly stepped forward. Her calm face became cold as she coldly rebuked him. "Shut up." Nie Yong was startled and looked at Du Yishuang with some fear. He did not put Yang Kai in his eyes, but Du Yishuang's strength was higher than his by 2 levels. If they really fought, he would not necessarily be her opponent. Zhuan also looked at him with disdain. "You are very annoying." This was the truth. He did not want to help Yang Kai vent his anger. Nie Yong's face turned red in an instant. He did not expect that among these people, there would be 2 of them. 2 of them were willing to help Yang Kai, but they didn't have the guts to do so, so they could only coldly snort. He looked at Yang Kai with eyes full of hatred. Lan Chudai ignored this and took a deep breath. She held the small stone figure in her hand and said, "If you do not have any objections, I want to investigate this matter. I want to investigate this thing. If what Yang Kai said is true, then we need to make other plans." Everyone naturally knew what she meant and nodded in agreement. Lan Chudai smiled and said, "Then I will have to trouble the protectors." She closed her eyes and poured the yuan qi into the small stone figure in her hand. After a while, Lan Chudai opened her eyes in surprise. She looked at Yang Kai and said, "You are right. There is a martial technique hidden in this small stone figure." The 4 people's expressions changed. "I did not carefully investigate it. I don't know what martial technique it is, but it is definitely not a low-level martial technique. It is at least an earth-level martial technique." There were more than 30 red lines in the small stone figure. This meant that the martial technique required the support of more than 30 meridians. Lan Chudai said that it was an earth-level martial technique. This was a conservative estimate. It was very likely that it was an earth-level martial technique. This time, not only did the other 3 people's breathing become rapid, Yang Kai was also excited. Speaking of which, after that night's battle in the 9-in Mountain Valley, Kai Yang realized one of his shortcomings. He lacked martial techniques. He did not have a set of offensive martial techniques. All of his attacks relied on his own yang liquid. This was his biggest shortcoming. Unyielding will was a very good martial technique. However, it was not an offensive martial technique. It was only an auxiliary martial technique. If he was in the 9-in Valley at that time, if he had an earth-level martial technique, the battle would not have been so difficult. However, Yang Kai did not have many contribution points. His status in the sect was also low. It was impossible for him to buy a decent martial technique. For example, a set of Earth-tier low-grade martial skills would require at least 400 to 500 contribution points to exchange for it. Moreover, there were not many types of martial skills available. But now, there was a martial technique here. Since there was a small stone figure in the stone statue, there was naturally a possibility of 2, 3, or even more. There were hundreds of stone statues there. The temptation of an earth-level martial technique was too great for the people present. For a time, Lan Chudai was secretly glad that she made the right choice. If she did not make the determination to destroy the 2 stone statues, it would be impossible to obtain the small stone figure. Naturally, there was no way to know the wealth hidden in the stone statue. What do you all think? Lan Chudai looked at the excited crowd and a beautiful smile appeared on her face. Although she was asking, she already knew the answer. Let's do it. Zhuan was more vulgar and only said one word. Since there is a martial technique hidden in the stone statue, we naturally cannot let it go. Nie Yong's eyes lit up. He felt as if he was dancing with joy. This place is worthy of being called the land of inheritance. We have only just entered and we have already found such a good thing. Yang Kai and Du Yishuang also nodded. Well, since everyone agrees, we will put in some effort here. Lan Chudai smiled sweetly. I will keep this small stone figure. When we have enough, we will distribute it. Rest assured, I will not privately investigate the hidden martial technique. Senior Sister Lan, I believe in you. Nie Yong quickly expressed his loyalty. After he finished speaking, he turned to look at the others. Senior Sister Lan is a famous person in the High Heaven Pavilion. This Nie can guarantee that she will not lie to you. Zhuan and Du Yishuang naturally did not have any objections. What's more, other than this method, there was no better way to deal with it. After all, there was only one small stone figure. After deciding to do a big job here, the next thing to do was to discuss how to proceed. Everyone had already experienced the strength of the stone statue. This kind of thing's combat strength was higher than anyone present. Its advantages were obvious. It was fast and strong. They must not be hit by it. Its disadvantages were even more obvious. It did not know how to think. If they ran around the stone pillar, they would shake it off. Chapter 129. Based on their previous experience, they quickly came up with a plan to counter this weakness. One person would lure out the stone sculptures while the rest would find an opportunity to leave behind 1 or 2 stone sculptures. Then, they would attack with all their might and destroy the stone sculptures as quickly as possible. A new problem arose. Who would be responsible for luring the snake out of its hole? This was a very realistic problem because the person responsible for luring out the stone sculptures would undoubtedly be taking a great risk. With hundreds of stone sculptures chasing after them, if they were not careful, they would lose their life here. Everyone knew that this task was difficult. They looked at each other without saying a word. After a moment, Nie Yong looked at Yang Kai and said, if you want to attack the stone sculptures, you must leave behind the stronger ones. So, it doesn't matter if the person who lures out the stone sculptures is weak. As long as you choose a good route, even if your speed is slow, you can still avoid the stone sculptures. I saw that junior brother's speed is good. Why don't you be responsible for restraining them? Yang Kai grinned at him and said, okay. Kai Yang. Du Yishuang gently tugged at Kai Yang's clothes. Just a moment ago, she had been chased by the 2 stone sculptures. That scene was still vivid in her mind. Now that she saw Kai Yang voluntarily taking on this task, she couldn't help but feel that it wasn't worth it for him. It's okay. Yang Kai smiled faintly. Lan Chudai looked at Yang Kai in surprise and asked seriously, are you sure you can be safe under the pursuit of those stone sculptures? If you are not sure, then don't take the risk. We can take turns to restrain them. Dangerous things can't be done alone. I'm not 100% sure, but 80%. Yang Kai's answer was more reserved. Although the scene just now was dangerous. That was not Yang Kai's maximum speed. That night in the Ninein Mountain Valley, Yang Kai found some ways to use the true Yang Yuan Qi in his body. Although it was not a true martial skill, it could greatly increase his speed. Compared to fighting the stone sculptures, he preferred to restrain them. After the battle just now, he realized that with his current strength, it would be very difficult for him to deal any effective damage to the stone statue. Using the unyielding will would naturally increase his strength greatly. However, this was a trump card that could not be revealed easily. Since you insist, then let's try again. If it really doesn't work out, then we can change the person. Lan Chudai made the final decision. After the discussion, the 5 of them retraced their steps. Halfway through the journey, Lan Chudai found a good place to fight. He told everyone to pay attention to this place. Yang Kai, thank you for just now. Du Yishuang suddenly thanked Yang Kai softly. She was referring to Yang Kai's help at the critical moment. It's nothing, don't worry about it. Yang Kai chuckled. But I still have to thank you. Walking to the place where the stone sculptures were gathered, everyone looked up and found that the stone sculptures had indeed returned to their original positions. Yang Kai quietly looked at the place where there were bloodstains and found 2 corpses lying there. He did not know which faction's disciples had mistakenly entered and did not come out. It was a pity. Are you ready? Lan Chudai asked nervously. Yes. Yang Kai nodded. Lan Chudai said, if you are chased by them, run here. Then, Nye Yong and I will leave the last stone sculpture. Sister Du, you and Zhuan will look for an opportunity to attack. If there is an opportunity, leave the second stone sculpture. If there is no opportunity, do not force it. Everything should be done to ensure our safety. After you leave the stone sculptures, immediately rush to the place where I just said and fight there. In addition, Yang Kai, you must not get close to the battlefield. Only after you have gotten rid of all of them can you return. Lan Chudai gave a few words to each of them. Their thoughts were clear and their tasks were simple. Everyone nodded. Then let's move. Yang Kai, be careful. Lan Chudai looked at Yang Kai encouragingly. Yang Kai threw the bag containing the Yang inflammation stone on the ground and strode towards the group of stone sculptures. A group of people looked at him nervously. Under the temptation of martial arts, Nye Yong was now worried about Yang Kai. If Yang Kai failed and died, then according to what he said just now, the next person to be responsible for restraining the stone sculptures would be himself. This was because among the remaining 4 people, his strength was the lowest. Don't be so useless. Nye Yong whispered softly. Just like before, Yang Kai came to the front of the group of stone sculptures. At this moment, the stone sculptures were still standing in the same place, but Yang Kai knew that he had not stepped into the range of their vigilance. He carefully took a few steps forward, almost reaching out his hand to touch the stone sculptures. Yang Kai's footsteps came to a halt as he found that this distance was enough. These stone sculptures slowly began to move, and with a series of cracking sounds, they began to move faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, they had become extremely fast. Without the slightest hesitation, Yang Kai turned around and ran. When he passed by the position where the other people were lying in ambush, he gave them a hand signal and disappeared. Asterisk rumble rumble rumble. Asterisk inside the rocky mound, more than 100 stone statues chased after Yang Kai. Just as the group of stone sculptures was about to fly past them, the 4 people who were lying in ambush rushed out. Lan Chudai and Nye Yong were in one group, while Zhuan and Du Yishuang were in the other group. They joined forces to stop the last 2 stone sculptures and retreated, leading them to the predetermined battlefield. At this point, the plan could be considered to have succeeded. Any 2 of them would be able to eat a stone sculpture. The only thing that was uncertain was whether Yang Kai, who was responsible for restraining the stone sculptures, could escape unscathed. What they did not know was that Yang Kai was the most relaxed. He only needed to run around the stone pillars and easily get rid of the stone sculptures. Although he did not get rid of many stone sculptures at once, after a few times, the number of stone sculptures chasing after him decreased. After the time it takes to burn a stick of incense, Yang Kai was left with only 3 stone sculptures. Rolling his eyes, Yang Kai did not try to get rid of them. Instead, he slowed down his pace and led them to the predetermined battlefield. After such a long time, the battle over there should be over. Yang Kai's prediction was correct. Lan Chudai and the others' battle was indeed over. The 4 of them were meditating and resting. They were waiting for his return. While they were waiting, the ground suddenly trembled again, and the rumbling sound from not far away quickly approached them. The 4 of them quickly opened their eyes. Nye Yong's expression changed greatly as he cursed. This useless trash actually led those stone sculptures here. Should we retreat first? In his opinion, Yang Kai should not be able to get rid of the stone sculptures. That was why they were lured here. Lan Chudai pondered for a moment and shook her head. Yang Kai should not be such a person. Listening to the sound, there are not many stone sculptures behind him. At most, there are 2 or 3 of them. 3. Zhuan's eyes flashed with a burning light as he replied with certainty, "My hearing is better than the average person." He did it on purpose. Lan Chudai smiled slightly. "Get ready to take over." While speaking, Yang Kai's figure had already appeared. From a distance, he made a few hand signals to everyone and then rushed past them like a gust of wind. After a moment, the 3 stone sculptures that were chasing after him appeared. Just like before, Lan Chudai and Nye Yong were in a group, while Zhua En and Du Yishuang were in a group. After they finished their battle, Yang Kai returned with the last stone sculpture. The 5 of them tore it into pieces in a few moments. Well done. Lan Chudai smiled at Yang Kai. In her original plan, at most, they could only leave behind 2 stone sculptures. She did not expect Yang Kai to be so good at controlling and bringing back 3 more. This was completely within the scope of what they could solve. Let's see if there are any spoils. Yang Kai did not care. They quickly rummaged through the rubble. The first 2 stone sculptures that were broken were already searched by the 4 of them, but they did not find anything. It was inevitable that they were disappointed. This time, their luck was good. Among the last 3 stone sculptures that Yang Kai brought back, Du Yishuang found a small stone man. This small stone man looked similar to the previous one. The number of red lines in the stone man was similar, but the distribution of the red lines was very different. It should be a different kind of martial skill. Du Yishuang handed it over to Lan Chudai. Not bad. Lan Chudai nodded slightly. It seems that this thing does not exist in every stone sculpture. The first time we broke 2 stone sculptures, we only got 1. This time, there are 5 stone sculptures. There is no pattern, so we can only rely on luck. Nye Yong said. There are nearly 100 stone sculptures. If we can break all of them, I think we can get at least 20 small stone men. 20 small stone men, that is 20 sets of martial skills. Everyone present can get 4 sets of martial skills. Everyone's eyes burned with passion. Let's recover first. When we recover, we will come again. Lan Chudi's face was full of excitement. Several people nodded, then each of them found a stone pillar and jumped on it. They took out the medicinal pills that they carried with them and sat down to recover. These people were already in the Qi transformation stage, so naturally, they would carry some medicinal pills. Compared to them, Yang Kai was much more shabby. However, Yang Kai did not need medicinal pills. The battle just now had consumed a lot of energy, but it was not a problem for him. Nye Yong had been trying to please Lan Chudai. Even when he was meditating, he wanted to sit with her. This time, Lan Chudai did not listen to him. She coldly reprimanded him and shook him off. Yang Kai secretly sneered. Lan Chudai was a woman with self-confidence, strength, and ambition. She was not someone who could be tamed by someone like Nye Yong. If he wanted to get Lan Chudai, he had to be more confident and powerful than her. Of course, he had to have strength and influence that surpassed her. Only then would she fall in love with him. To put it bluntly, this woman was more realistic. Although she had always been amiable, Yang Kai could see the hidden arrogance and self-admiration in her eyes. Her beauty would only be enjoyed by powerful men. Nye Yong was nothing in her eyes. The 4 people were recovering, and naturally, Yang Kai was not an exception. He went to the place where he had thrown his bag, which was full of yang inflammation stones, and then found a secluded place to concentrate on absorbing the energy of the yang inflammation stones. After half a day, the number of yang inflammation stones in his bag had decreased by half. Yang Kai estimated that the 4 people had almost recovered, so he went to the designated battlefield. Chapter 130. The 4 of them had already recovered and were waiting for Yang Kai. Nye Yong was impatient as he kept muttering under his breath. When Yang Kai arrived, Lan Chudai took a deep breath. Her plump breasts swelled exaggeratedly, and the clothes that were tightly wrapped around her body seemed to be about to burst open. Her beautiful eyes looked around and asked, "Are you all ready?" "We have long been ready," Nye Yong said excitedly. "Then let's do it again." She turned to look at Yang Kai and asked, "Do you want someone else to restrain those stone statues? This is a dangerous task after all." "No, I have already tried it once. I have already experienced it." Yang Kai shook his head. He really did not want to fight with these stone statues. They had no flesh and blood, and his hands and feet hurt. "That's fine. This time, it's up to you. Lan Chudai smiled slightly. Whenever she smiled at him, Yang Kai always felt a little strange. It was as if she was giving him a smile before carrying out a dangerous task. If it was Nie Yong, he would have been greatly encouraged. However, when it was Yang Kai, he always felt that it was not interesting. Without saying a word, Yang Kai quickly rushed to the place where the stone statues were gathered. This time, the stone statues chased after him. However, Lan Chudi's luck was not so good. When they were intercepting the stone statues, they accidentally blocked one of them. This caused them to be flustered and almost caused casualties. Yang Kai finally managed to lure back 2 stone statues. After ravaging them, they both turned into rubble. This time, his luck was off the charts. He was able to obtain 2 small stone statues at once. As a result, the number of small stone statues had increased to 4. This small team only had 5 people. As long as there was 1 more stone statue, each person would be able to obtain one. Yang Kai was full of expectations. What he lacked the most was martial skills. Of course, he wanted to obtain a small stone statue first. Then, he could increase his combat strength. For the next few days, the 5 of them stayed at the rocky mound, constantly luring out the stone statues to kill. After every battle, they would rest for half a day, then repeat the cycle. He didn't know if it was luck or something else, but ever since they obtained the 4 small stone men that day, the small team had already broken 30 stone sculptures. Unexpectedly, they didn't obtain anything else. This was very different from the expected result, which made everyone a little disappointed. Furthermore, as he lured them out again and again, Yang Kai discovered that these stone sculptures were becoming more and more difficult to deal with. It was not that they had become stronger, but it was very difficult to separate them. Once, when Lan Chudai and the others were intercepting them from behind, they attracted the pursuit of more than a dozen stone statues, causing them to have no choice but to flee. That time, they had to run for more than 2 hours before they finally got rid of all the stone sculptures. The operation became more and more dangerous, but the 5th little stone man did not appear. After another arduous battle, there was still no harvest. After resting for half a day, the 5 of them gathered together to discuss. Why don't we just leave it at that? I feel that something bad will happen if we continue. Nie Yong said worriedly. Zuan said in a muffled voice, there are only 4 sets of martial skills, but there are 5 of us. How do we divide them? There was a moment of silence. No one would take the initiative to give up their share of the benefits. In the past few days, everyone had put in a lot of effort, hoping to get an Earth-level martial skill. Nie Yong thought of Yang Kai again. He chuckled and said, Senior Sister Lan said before that we should divide the rewards according to how much effort we put in. Junior brother Yang's strength is the lowest, so he put in the least effort. We don't need the martial skill, right? Yang Kai looked at him with a sneer. Nie Yong continued, Of course, junior brother Yang put in a lot of effort, so it's not right for him to not get anything. How about we compensate him with some silver? Zuan frowned and showed a thoughtful expression. This proposal obviously tempted him. Du Yishuang firmly said, No, how can we compensate for an Earth-level martial skill with some silver? Yang Kai still sneered. Although he was looking at Nie Yong, he was looking at Lan Chudai from the corner of his eyes. He wanted to know what this woman would say in this situation. Her attitude would determine Yang Kai's next move. Lan Chudai remained silent all this time. Yang Kai's sneer deepened. The awkward silence lasted for a long time before Lan Chudai said, Let's do it this way. Let's see if we can get the last small stone man. If we can't, then one of us will not be able to get the Earth-level martial skill. However, Lan Chudai, promise that the one who can't get the small stone man will not suffer a loss. When we return to the sect, I will find a way to compensate you. Her words seemed to be directed at the 4 of them, but in fact, Yang Kai knew that she was mainly talking to him. Among the people present, Yang Kai's strength was the lowest. He could provide the least amount of help to the team. If Lan Chudai wanted to offend someone, she would only choose to offend Yang Kai. I am afraid that this is our last chance. You must work hard. Lan Chudai stood up and turned to look at Yang Kai. She gently smiled. Junior brother Yang, I will have to trouble you again. Yang Kai looked at her deeply and nodded. He then stood up and walked towards the stone sculptures. Lan Chudai was aware of his cold attitude. Her beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of apology, but it quickly disappeared. Yang Kai had done this many times in the past few days. Naturally, he was familiar with it. However, this time he had another plan. As usual, Yang Kai arrived in front of the stone sculptures and approached them step by step. After all of them had moved, Yang Kai began to run back in an orderly manner while observing the movements of the last few stone sculptures. When the stone sculptures at the back were crowded together, Yang Kai was satisfied and ran away. As usual, he rushed past the ambush of the other four. Dozens of stone sculptures rumbled after him. Lan Chudai and the others saw the opportunity to intercept him. However, this time, the stone sculptures at the back were blocked together. There were 4 of them. Lan Chudai's face changed. She quickly shouted, "Nye Yong, take 2 of them away." "Why me?" Nye Yong panicked. Du Yishuang coldly laughed. "Didn't you always say that controlling the stone sculptures is the easiest thing to do? Yang Kai can lead dozens of stone sculptures away. You can't even control 2 of them?" "Who said I can't?" Nye Yong was enraged. He immediately launched a series of attacks, trapping the 2 stone statues. Once they were completely distracted, he hurriedly fled into the distance. There were only 2 stone sculptures left. However, there were 3 people in the field. As long as they spent some time, they would be able to easily defeat them. While the 4 of them were fighting hard, Yang Kai was also leading the several dozen stone statues behind him as they dashed through the rubble. Unlike before, this time, Yang Kai deliberately controlled the distance and did not shake them off. After running for about 50 miles, Yang Kai jumped on top of a stone pillar and looked back at the stone sculptures behind him. Half of the plan was successful. Yang Kai's heart was relieved. However, he did not know if his guess was correct. The reason why Yang Kai wanted Lan Chudai to stop the 4 stone sculptures was not because he wanted to use someone else's knife to kill. He did not have such a vicious mind. With their ability, they could definitely deal with the 4 stone sculptures. It was just that it would take a lot of time. Yang Kai wanted them to waste more time so that his next plan would not be discovered. Whether or not they could obtain the small stone man this time, Yang Kai would not place his hopes on others. Lan Chudai was too realistic. He could not expect her to be fair. If this time they still did not obtain anything, Yang Kai was sure that he would not be able to obtain the 4 small stone men. Therefore, if he wanted something good, he could only rely on himself. For the past few days, Yang Kai had been thinking about a problem. Why did these stone sculptures run back after being lured away? Finally, he came to an answer. They were probably guarding something. This thing should be more valuable than the small stone man's martial skill. This was only a guess, but it was worth the risk. Now that all the stone sculptures were lured here, he had a distance of 50 miles that he could use. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai's true Yang Yuan Qi madly revolved. 2 flames appeared under his feet. His body was like an arrow, quickly returning to the original path. This time, his speed was twice as fast as before. This was also the method of using true Yang Yuan Qi that Yang Kai had discovered. It was not a martial skill, but a skill. The advantage was that it could increase one's speed to the limit. The disadvantage was that it consumed a lot of energy. The true Yang Yuan Qi in his meridians continuously poured into the soles of his feet. It was like a flood that had broken through a dam. In just half a cup of tea's time, the Yuan Qi in his meridians dried up. A drop of Yang liquid exploded in the dantian, and the dried-up meridians were once again filled. After consuming 4 drops of Yang liquid, Yang Kai finally returned to the place where the stone sculptures were gathered. This was a flat area, but Yang Kai had not carefully investigated the specific terrain. Every time he lured the stone sculptures, he simply did not have the time to do so. Now that this area was empty, Yang Kai looked around and hurriedly searched the area. If his guess was correct, there must be something here. After searching for a moment, Yang Kai really found something. In the center of this flat area, there was a huge pit. In the pit stood a somewhat different stone sculpture. Whether it was in terms of size or shape, this stone sculpture was much more domineering than the other stone sculptures. That's it. Yang Kai did not hesitate to jump down, and then quietly approached it. With his many experiences, Yang Kai knew that once he got within 1 foot of these stone sculptures, they would move. Yang Kai had already prepared to run at any time. This was not a place to fight. If he stayed here for a while, the dozens of stone sculptures would return. If he was surrounded by them, he would definitely die. But what surprised Yang Kai was that when he got within 1 foot of the stone sculpture, it did not move at all. Instead, Yang Kai, who was about to run away, was rooted in place. What's going on? After testing it several times, the stone sculpture still did not move. Yang Kai's courage grew. No matter why it did not move, this was a good opportunity to attack. His true Yang Yuan Qi crazily circulated. Yang Kai did not hesitate and fiercely punched the stone sculpture, wanting to use the fastest speed to break it. Chapter 131. It did not move at all, unlike the other stone sculptures that would attack. However, Yang Kai was keenly aware that every time he attacked the stone sculpture, it would absorb a portion of the true Yang Yuan Qi that he emitted. As time passed, the stone sculpture began to emit a faint layer of red light, and its body began to emit the same Yang Yuan Qi as Yang Kai. Kacha, the stone sculpture's large hands seemed to move slowly. Yang Kai's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly understood. It was indeed absorbing the Yuan Qi from his attacks, and using it as a source of energy to move its body. However, the amount of Yuan Qi it absorbed was too little, and was not enough to support its movements. After understanding this, Yang Kai did not stop, and instead attacked even more viciously. Let's see if you move first, or if I break you first. With stubbornness in his heart, Yang Kai continued to punch wildly. His fist was badly mangled. The hardness of this stone sculpture was much stronger than the others. The stone sculpture absorbed more and more Yuan Qi, and its movements became more and more violent. A large palm was already raised high, and looking down at Yang Kai, it looked like it was about to hit him. However, the chest area of the stone sculpture that was attacked by Yang Kai was also badly damaged, and was full of cracks. With a swoosh, the stone sculpture's palm slapped down at an incredible speed. Fortunately, Yang Kai was prepared and quickly dodged. The ground trembled, and there was a palm print on the ground. Dust flew everywhere, and Yang Kai's clothes and hair danced in the wind. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, Yang Kai's fists burst into flames, as if he was holding 2 burning flames in his hands. Whether it was the speed or strength of his punches, they were all increased by a lot. Crash! Along with the ferocious punch, a large hole was finally punched in the stone sculpture's chest, and rubble scattered all over the ground. At first glance, Yang Kai saw a small, glittering and translucent stone man inside. He hurriedly took it out and put it into his bosom. Then he leaped out of the deep pit before the statue's second attack arrived. He turned his head and looked around. In the distance, the dozens of stone sculptures that had been lured away earlier were about to return. Yang Kai's face darkened. He didn't dare to hesitate. He quickly increased his speed to the limit and left in a hurry. After making a big circle outside, Yang Kai returned to where the 4 of them were. As soon as she appeared, Du Yishuang happily said to Yang Kai, "We finally got another small stone man. Now we have 5 people, 1 for each of us." "Hehe, looks like my luck is pretty good." Yang Kai chuckled and faintly glanced at Lan Chudai. The latter was also looking at him with a smile. Seeing that his fists were full of blood, she couldn't help but quickly step forward and hold his hand. Frowning, she asked, "How did you get injured like this?" She appeared to be very concerned. There was even a trace of concern between her eyebrows. It was like a senior sister to a junior brother. Yang Kai pulled back his hand and lightly said, "There were a few stone sculptures that were too close. I had no choice but to move my hands and feet with them." Lan Chudi's beautiful face flashed a trace of astonishment. Immediately, she gently smiled and said, "It's good that you are safe. Let's divide the stone men first. Everyone can cultivate and increase their combat strength," Zuoren suggested. Lan Chudai nodded and then took out the 5 small stone men that she had collected in the past few days. The number of red lines in the 5 small stone men was basically the same. Although the level of the martial skill that required the use of meridians was high, this was not absolute. There were also some special martial skills that were not low in grade, but only required the use of a few meridians. Therefore, the 5 of them didn't know which of the martial skills hidden in the small stone men was good or bad. At this time, they could only rely on luck and luck. After so many days of hard work, although the harvest was very different from what they had expected, their eyes were still burning with desire. This small stone man contained an earth-grade martial skill. Who will go first? Nye Yong was eager to try. He wanted to choose first, but he was afraid that he would choose a bad one. He was hesitant. I suggest that junior brother go first. After all, he has been working hard these past few days to restrain the stone sculptures. Moreover, he was injured just now. He should be the first to choose. Lan Chudai smiled and looked at Yang Kai. She was generous to give everyone 1 small stone man. Moreover, even if they chose first, they would not necessarily get the best one. These words were cheap, but they could win people's hearts. Yang Kai didn't know what she was thinking. He nodded and said, "Senior sister, since you said so, it would be impolite for me to refuse." After that, he casually grabbed a small stone man. Lan Chudai and the others also chose 1 small stone man. Now that the items have been distributed, let's find a place to familiarize ourselves with our martial skill. After 1 day, we will gather here again. Lan Chudai instructed. In this strange place, 1 more martial skill meant 1 more battle power. Although it took a lot of time to cultivate a martial skill, it was still acceptable to everyone compared to the 1 day's worth of time they had to put in. Everyone nodded and turned to leave. Yang Kai, let me help you bandage your wounds. Du Yishuang saw that Yang Kai's hands were covered in blood and couldn't bear it. Then I will trouble you. Yang Kai did not refuse. Lan Chudai, who was about to leave, heard this sentence and couldn't help but stop. Her beautiful eyebrows wrinkled, but she didn't stop. Her figure flashed and disappeared. When only Yang Kai and Du Yishuang were left, Du Yishuang bandaged Yang Kai's wounds and said, "Wait a moment and see what martial skill you have. If it is not good, I will exchange it with you. I have already practiced an earth-level martial skill, so I don't really need it." "No need." Yang Kai smiled. "Since it is an earth-level martial skill, there is nothing bad about it. Do as you wish." Du Yishuang didn't force him. She stood up and said, "I will go and familiarize myself with my martial skill. See you tomorrow." Staring at her back, Yang Kai slowly said, "If there is a chance, leave by yourself." Du Yishuang didn't turn her head and replied, "I know." This small team was not reliable. Although they could temporarily unite together, it was also because they were not familiar with this place. Lan Chudai didn't have the qualifications to be a leader. She couldn't balance a bowl of water. She only cared about her own gains and losses. Such a person only cared about herself. In times of danger, she would not consider the safety of others. If they followed her, sooner or later, they would be in trouble. After confirming that no one was around, Yang Kai also left. He found a secluded place and took out the 2 small stone men. Looking at them, Yang Kai's heart couldn't help but tremble. One of the small stone men was from Lan Chudai. There was nothing special about it. It was similar to the small stone men. However, the small stone men that he obtained from the stone sculptures were very different. The small stone men's meridians were not red. Instead, they were golden. Not only that, but the number of golden lines were much more. What level of martial skill is this? According to Lan Chudai's analysis, the small stone men's martial skill was at least earth-level middle-level martial skill. It was very likely that it was earth-level high-level martial skill. But the small stone men's martial skill was obviously much higher. Could it be a heaven-level martial skill? Thinking of this, Kai Yang's breathing became a lot faster. This risky decision was indeed worth it. Just by obtaining these 2 martial skills, it was already worth it. And this was only the beginning. Which one should he learn first? Looking at the 2 small stone men in his hand, Yang Kai was somewhat hesitant. The small stone men's martial skill was undoubtedly higher. After learning it, it would be more helpful to him. However, he didn't have much time. He was afraid that a day's worth of effort would not be enough to learn it. After carefully considering it for a moment, Yang Kai put the small stone men back into his arms and held the small stone men that he obtained from Lan Chudai in the palm of his hand. In this situation, the right choice was to learn a martial skill that could increase his combat power as soon as possible. The small stone men's martial skill was certainly inferior. However, the time required to practice it was undoubtedly not too long. The difficulty was also lower. Circulating the yuan qi, he poured it into the small stone men in the palm of his hand. He felt the distribution and circulation of the red lines in the small stone men. At the same time, he compared it to the meridians in his body. In less than an hour, Yang Kai had already memorized the circulation method of the yuan qi. Slowly opening his eyes, he looked down. The red lines in the small stone men in his hand had disappeared. Even the small stone men itself had become fragmented. It had completed its mission. Yang Kai gently squeezed, and the small stone men turned into fine powder. This thing could only be used by one person to comprehend the mystery of the martial skill. After it was used up, it would be damaged. This should be related to the yuan qi that was poured into it. There was nothing to feel pity about. Yang Kai stood up and recalled what he had comprehended from the small stone men. The yuan qi in his body began to circulate through his meridians. It was his first time using this martial skill, so it was inevitable that Yang Kai was not successful. However, he was not discouraged. He once again activated the yuan qi and circulated it according to the circulation method of the red lines in the small stone men. At the same time, he used his heart to feel the changes in his body. As the yuan qi in his body circulated and flowed through those specific meridians, Yang Kai could feel a force gradually condensing on the tip of his fist. This force was very weak at first. However, with the circulation of the yuan qi and the support of the meridians, this force rapidly grew. It made people feel an urge to attack. Yang Kai resisted the urge to attack because the yuan qi in his body had not circulated through all the meridians required. After waiting for a while, the 36 meridians in his body were linked together by the yuan qi. Along with a resonance, the yuan qi in the 36 meridians surged and gathered at the tip of his fist, causing the strength that was not weak to become even more powerful. It was as if it wanted to break free from Yang Kai's restraints and rush out by itself. Yang Kai clenched his fist so tightly that it began to tremble slightly. He no longer suppressed it and ferociously punched out. Along with this punch, all the force and yuan qi that had converged on his fist were released at the same time. In the space where the tip of his fist pointed, the heaven and earth energy instantly became chaotic. Soon after, with a rumbling sound, the space seemed to explode. Layers and layers of visible fire rings swayed. Yang Kai's eyes flashed. His eyes were shining brightly. Was this the lethality of the martial skill? It was indeed powerful. Chapter 132. Strictly speaking, this was the first offensive martial skill that Yang Kai had learned. Before this, all his attacks relied on the Dantian's yang liquid and his body's reflexes. However, that was not enough to bring out his full potential. With martial skills, however, things were different. Martial skills were the foundation of a cultivator's battle. Only martial skills could bring out the full potential of yuan qi. Just now, it was only an experiment. Although it was successful, it was not the full potential of this martial skill. In battle, martial skills were released in an instant. How could they be like Yang Kai, who slowly condensed them and felt them? However, after all, he had just learned it. He could not practice it to perfection. This required time and experience. Taking a deep breath, Yang Kai clenched his fist. Thinking about the scene of the punch, his heart surged. The small stone man only contained the cultivation method of this martial skill. It did not tell Yang Kai the name of the martial skill, so he had to give it a name. After thinking for a while, Yang Kai decided to call it Burning Sunburst. The yuan qi in the 36 meridians suddenly exploded. This was a sudden killing move that could easily cause people to suffer a great loss. Yang Kai's Yuan Qi could only support this move 3 times. After 3 moves, his primordial qi would be completely depleted. If it was someone else, they would not dare to use this move casually. However, Yang Kai had a lot of yang liquid in his dantian. Naturally, he did not have to worry about this problem. This also meant that Yang Kai could quickly master the burning sunburst. His efficiency in cultivating martial skills was many times faster than others. The burning sunburst should be an earth-level upper-level martial skill. His luck was not bad. He had obtained a fist martial skill. If he had obtained a sword martial skill or even a staff martial skill, Yang Kai would have been very depressed. He did not have a weapon. So what if he obtained it? After sorting out his thoughts, Yang Kai prepared to use this day to learn the burning sunburst as soon as possible to increase his fighting strength. 1 day later, the 5 of them gathered together again after mastering the burning sunburst. Except for Nie Yong, who was somewhat dejected, the other 4 were quite satisfied with their martial skills. Yang Kai himself did not need to say anything. Although he had worked hard for several days, he had finally obtained an earth-level upper-level martial skill, burning sunburst. In addition, he had also obtained a small stone man. The others did not say what martial skills they had obtained, but from their expressions, they seemed to have gained a lot. Nie Yong was the only one who was cursing in dissatisfaction. According to him, the martial skill he had obtained was a whip martial skill, which was very depressing. Du Yishuang, who was standing beside Kai Yang, smiled and whispered, "Evil people have their retribution. Serves you right." Yang Kai nodded. Lan Chudai comforted Nie Yong with a few words, making him feel less depressed. CDL. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Nie Yong saw that Yang Kai had wasted a lot of effort. His heart felt much better. Yang Kai ignored him. He did not know that the yang inflammation stones had been turned into energy and stored in his dantian. There was no sun, moon, or stars. There was no way to calculate the passage of time. Yang Kai estimated that they had walked for more than 2 days before they finally walked out of the rocky mound. Along the way, they had also encountered several corpses of the disciples of the 3 sections. They did not know what kind of danger they had encountered in the rocky mound. Anyway, Yang Kai and the others were safe and sound. After walking out of the rocky mound, the 5 of them could not help but exhale. Since they had entered the Heaven's Cave inheritance, they had been in an environment where they could not see anything but rocks. It was inevitable that they would feel depressed. Outside the rocky mound, there was a dense forest. The dense forest connected into one, verdant and lush, full of greenery. Although there were many dangers in the forest, they could not return to the rocky mound since they had already come here. What's more, if there were dangers, there would be opportunities. Not to mention other things, in such a large forest, there would be a lot of spiritual herbs and miraculous herbs. They did not hesitate. They were secretly vigilant of their surroundings and plunged into the forest. After walking for a while, Zhuan suddenly exclaimed in surprise. He lowered his head and groped on the ground. The others stopped and looked at him. After a while, Zhuan straightened up and said with certainty, "Someone passed by here 2 days ago, and there were many of them." Hearing this, Nie Yong's face lit up. He said, "It should be the other disciples of the 3 sections." Zhuan frowned slightly. "It's hard to say. No one knows if there are outsiders in the Heaven's Cave inheritance." Hearing his words, everyone felt a chill run down their spines. The Heaven's Cave inheritance had been sealed for at least 1,000 years. If there were people in here, who would they be? Zhuan also felt that this was unlikely. He quickly added, "I was just saying, but it should be the disciples of the 3 sections. Then let's chase after them." Nie Yong suggested, "If the person in front is Brother Jie or Senior Sister Su, that would be great." Lan Chudai frowned slightly, but she nodded in agreement. Although she was the temporary leader of the 5 people, their strength was not high. If they encountered too much danger, she was afraid that they would all die. Instead of risking their lives to explore here, it was better to find the brother and senior sister of Sky Tower Pavilion. With their protection, the probability of safety would be increased. Then let's go find them. The group followed the traces left a few days ago. After half a day, they suddenly saw a small lake in front of them. There were many footprints left by the lake. It seemed that the disciples of the three sects had briefly rested here. Since the disciples of the three sects had rested here, it meant that there was no danger here. It just so happened that the group was tired from sleeping in the open. After a brief discussion, they decided to rest here for a while before setting off again. The five of them scattered around and meditated. Not long after, Lan Chudai suddenly came to Du Yishuang's side and whispered a few words. Du Yishuang slowly shook her head. Her expression was hesitant, but she immediately nodded. Her face was somewhat red. Lan Chudai walked over to Yang Kai and gently patted him on the shoulder. "What's the matter?" Yang Kai opened his eyes and looked at her. Lan Chudai secretly glanced at Nye Yong and Zhuan not far away and waved to Yang Kai. "Come with me." She frowned. Yang Kai did not know what she wanted to do, but he still followed her. After walking a distance, Yang Kai saw Du Yishuang waiting for him. "What's the matter?" Yang Kai did not know why they were gathered together. These two women did not seem to be on good terms. Lan Chudai smiled shyly. "Sister Du and I want to take a bath here." Yang Kai's eyes suddenly became strange. He looked at the two women in front of him. Du Yishuang could not help but blush. Lan Chudai was also somewhat shy. She stamped her feet and said, "What are you thinking? I just want you to help me guard this place and not let others come close." Yang Kai was dumbfounded. "Senior Sister Lan, you found the wrong person. You should look for Nye Yong. Brother Nye will definitely agree." Lan Chudai knew that Yang Kai was somewhat dissatisfied with her actions these days. She was somewhat annoyed. "If I trust him, why would I look for you? Senior sister, you trust me?" Yang Kai smiled. "Maybe I will peek." Lan Chudai smiled. "If you dare, I won't mind." "I don't mind. Anyway, little sister Du will teach you a lesson." Yang Kai dryly coughed. Since she had said so, he could not refuse. What's more, Du Yishuang was also going to go down. It would be better for him to protect her. "Can you two make it quick?" Yang Kai nodded. Seeing that he agreed, Lan Chudai smiled. "That's more like it. You stay here. Sister Du and I will go to the other side." Finished speaking, she took Du Yishuang's arm and walked towards the other side. After walking a few steps, she turned back and said, "You must not peek." Yang Kai replied as he glanced at the lake. The light here was not very good. About a dozen feet away from the lake, there was a huge rock standing in the water. It was a natural barrier. As long as the two women hid behind the rock, even if Yang Kai wanted to peek, he would not be able to do so. The reason why Lan Chudai called for him was just to be prepared for the worst. Since they had already found a place, Yang Kai did not care too much and sat down facing the lake. Not long after, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Yang Kai, who was meditating with his eyes closed, opened his eyes to take a look. Sure enough, there were many women's clothes placed on top of a large rock. Due to the distance, he couldn't see clearly. Lan Chudai and Du Yishuang had hidden their bodies behind the rock. Unless one's eyesight could see through the rock, it would be useless to see anything. Yang Kai did not like Lan Chudai very much, but he did not hate her. The two of them had no enmity. Moreover, they were from the same sect. Except for a few days ago when he was a little dissatisfied with her attitude, there was nothing else. I should find a chance to leave this team and act alone, so as not to be blamed. But I don't know where Su Mu is now. While he was contemplating, he suddenly heard light footsteps behind him. Yang Kai looked back and saw Nye Yong quietly walking towards him. Nye Yong's eyes were fixed on the stone on the other side of the lake. There was a fanatical look in his eyes and his breathing was somewhat heavy. Seeing Yang Kai looking at him, Nye Yong only responded with a contemptuous smile. He quickly came to his side and threatened, "You did not see anything. Sit here obediently and do not move. If you dare to say anything, I will make you suffer." Yang Kai looked at him indifferently. Nye Yong thought that Yang Kai was afraid and could not help but snort. He walked past Yang Kai and quickly walked forward. The sound of two women laughing and splashing water could be heard from the lake. This sound was like the sound of magic entering his ears. It made Nie Yong's blood boil. When he thought of Lan Chudi's full and smooth body hiding behind the stone, he could not help himself. A few more steps, and the beauty behind the stone would be imprinted in his eyes. Yang Kai sneered. He calmly put his hand in a circle and put it in front of his mouth. Dan Tian shouted, "Brother Nya, why are you running over there?" Chapter 133. This was originally a quiet place. Apart from the sound of two women laughing and splashing water in the distance, there was no other sound. Yang Kai's shout, even though it was not loud, was quite sudden. As soon as his voice fell, there was a violent splash of water. It should be the sound of the two women suddenly plunging into the water. Nie Yong also seemed to be greatly frightened. He jumped back a few steps like a rabbit. He turned around and glared at Yang Kai. He immediately used his movement skill and quickly retreated. Before he left, his eyes were full of resentment. Obviously, he did not expect that Yang Kai would dare to offend him. Coward! Yang Kai laughed disdainfully. If he was Nie Yong, since his whereabouts were already exposed, he might as well take a few steps forward. Maybe he would really see something beautiful and not have wasted his trip. Not long after, Lan Chudi's hair was dripping wet as she walked back. Du Yishuang puffed up her cheeks. Her eyes flashed with a cold light. On the contrary, Lan Chudai looked at Yang Kai indifferently and said softly, "Thank you." "You're welcome." Yang Kai responded indifferently. The three stood up and were about to return when they suddenly felt a strong fluctuation of yuan qi from afar. They turned their heads and saw a dazzling light flashing in the distant sky. They could vaguely hear the sound of fighting and killing. Immediately, an angry roar of a beast drilled into their ears. The three's face suddenly changed. This roar was obviously made by the monster beast. How could there be a monster beast in this place? At this moment, there should be many people fighting with the monster beast. Swish, swish, swish. Nie Yong and Zuan, who had just escaped, also came back. Their faces were dignified as they looked in the direction of the sound. Du Yishuang looked at Nie Yong with hatred. There was undisguised disgust in her eyes. Lan Chudai did not mention a word about what had just happened. She only asked, "Zuan, what did you hear?" Zuan's hearing was better. Although the others could hear some of the sounds, it was certainly not as clear as him. "Over 100. Zuan replied in a deep voice. "There are hundreds of people gathered over there, and they are attacking a monster beast. Judging from the commotion caused by the monster beast, I'm afraid it's around level 6. Everyone's expression changed. 6th order, that was equivalent to the immortal ascension boundary. Those who entered the cave of inheritance were, at most, yuan qi experts. How could they fight against a Heaven's Gate expert? Could it be that these hundreds of people were idiots? Why would they actively seek death? This monster beast's roar is very weak." Zuan frowned slightly. "It sounds like he just woke up not long ago. It should be related to the seal here." The few of them suddenly understood. The seal here had only been broken a few days ago, and the monster beast here must have been sealed for many years. Although he did not know why these monster beasts were still alive, he was certain that they could not perform at their original level. No wonder those hundreds of people dared to attack it. The monster beast is injured. Zuan raised his eyebrows. Sure enough, as soon as his voice fell, an angry and unwilling roar came from the other side. At the same time, the original noise suddenly quieted down, and the hundreds of people did not move. "What's the situation?" Lan Chudai asked anxiously. "I don't know." Zuan slowly shook his head. "Should we go and take a look?" Lan Chudi's beautiful eyebrows slightly wrinkled as she carefully considered. After a long while, she turned to look at the other four. "What do you think?" "I personally think that we should go and take a look. Since there are hundreds of people gathered there, not all of them are at yuan qi or separation and reunion boundary. There should also be people at the qi transformation boundary. If they can stay there, then we can too. However, there should be danger. It is up to you whether you want to go or not." Of course, we want to go. Nie Yong was the first to nod. After such an embarrassing incident, he was embarrassed to stay in this group of 5. Naturally, he wanted to find his other brothers. I'll go too, Xuan said in a muffled voice. Lan Chudai looked at Yang Kai and Du Yishuang, and the two nodded slightly. Then let's go. The few of them quickly used their movement skills and rushed towards the source of the movement. After more than an hour, the 5 of them finally saw the other disciples of the 3 sections. In the distance, there were 2 groups of people confronting each other. Each group had about 50 people, and there was not much difference between them. However, the light in the forest was too dim, so the 5 of them did not know which sect the 2 groups belonged to. After a while, a familiar voice sounded from afar. Fong Ziki, your storm house only has this much ability. You want to steal from me? You are too inexperienced. When he heard the voice, Nie Yong's face was filled with joy. Brother Xie. Lan Chudai also showed a trace of a smile, but Yang Kai's face sank. One of the groups was from High Heaven Pavilion, but the one leading them was Xie Hongchen. This was not the kind of person he wanted to see. Du Yishuang had the same expression as Yang Kai. Du Yishuang was a disciple of Storm House, and Fong Ziki was the strongest disciple of Storm House's younger generation. The few of them looked at each other, and Du Yishuang quietly moved away from Lan Chudai and the others. Although the 5 of them had joined forces to explore the enemy, now that there was a large group of people from their respective sects, they had to draw closer to their respective sections. As a result, they had become enemies with each other. In the face of Xie Hongchen's ridicule, Fong Ziki said indifferently, Xie Hongchen, I just don't want to fight with you. You have just broken through to Yuan Qi stage, so you are not my opponent. Don't humiliate yourself. What did you say? Xie Hongchen's voice was cold. On the other side, many of the High Heaven Pavilion's disciples were clamoring, each of them shouting for Xie Hongchen to teach Fong Ziki a lesson. Other than Su Yen, no one from High Heaven Pavilion can enter my eyes. Fong Ziki chuckled, his attitude was very arrogant. You want to fight with me? If you want, I will accompany you. But if you lose in front of so many people, I am afraid it will not look good on you. These words touched Xie Hongchen's heart. Although he and Fong Ziji were both true element boundary first stage cultivators, one had just broken through, while the other had broken through a long time ago. If they really fought, they might not necessarily win. Just as Xie Hongchen was stuck between a rock and a hard place, Nie Yong came out of the jungle and shouted, Senior Brother Xie. Hearing the shout, Xie Hongchen quickly turned his head and looked over. His expression relaxed as he smiled and said, Junior Brother Nie. I finally found you. Nie Yong was very excited. His speed suddenly increased as he left the group of 5 and rushed towards the High Heaven Pavilion's disciples. However, the other 4 people stopped in their tracks. Du Xiaomei and Zhua and were not from High Heaven Pavilion, so naturally they would not go. Yang Kai and Xie Hongchen had a grudge, so of course they would not go. As for Lan Chudai, she knew that Yang Kai and Xie Hongchen had a grudge against each other. She could not help but look at Yang Kai with some hesitation. Yang Kai, I will go to Brother Fong's side. Thank you for these past few days. Du Yishuang said softly. Yang Kai nodded with a smile. Xuan, what are you going to do? Are you going with me or with Sister Lan? Du Yishuang did not forget to ask Xuan before she left. After all, there was no one from blood group here, making him feel homeless and alone. Xuan said in a muffled voice, I will go with you. Although Storm House's disciples were not necessarily good people, Xuan knew that Du Yishuang was a kind girl. Instead of following Lan Chudai, it would be better to follow Du Yishuang. At least she would not play any tricks. Du Yishuang nodded and walked with Xuan towards Storm House's group. Let's also go. Lan Chudai said. Yang Kai did not answer. His eyes swept over the group of people from High Heaven Pavilion. After a moment, he said, You go, I will not go. He did not see Sassafras, Su Yen, and Xianing Chang. This group of people was led by Xie Hongchen. If he went there, he would only be humiliated. Junior brother, bear with it for a while. There are many dangers here. You will not be able to cope with them alone. Lan Chudai knew his concerns and could not help but softly persuade him. Yang Kai slowly shook his head. His expression was firm. On the High Heaven Pavilion's side, Nie Yong's arrival made many of the High Heaven Pavilion's disciples laugh happily. Apparently, they were all familiar with each other. Then, Nie Yong came in front of Xia Hongchen and whispered something to him. While speaking, he turned his head towards Yang Kai and Lan Chudai. His face was filled with cold hatred. Separated by about 20 meters, Xia Hongchen stared at Kai Yang with a look of disdain and pride. On the other side, Fang Ziki did not know the situation and urged, Xia Hongchen, since you don't want to fight with me, let us join forces to kill the monster beast first. As for the treasure guarded by the monster beast, it will not be too late to talk about it later. Xia Hongchen turned his head to look at him and smiled, let's talk about this later. This Xia needs to deal with a family matter first. Then he gently looked at Lan Chudai and smiled, Junior sister Lan, you must have worked hard. Since you have found us, come here. Everyone is here. It is very safe. Lan Chudai gently nodded and then pulled Yang Kai's clothes. Yang Kai did not move. Xia Hongchen smiled and said in a clear voice, Junior brother Yang, if you want, you can come here. After all, we are all from the same sect. This place is very dangerous. Your strength is low. As a brother, I should protect you. Nie Yong angrily said, Brother Xia, this kind of person is not worthy of being your junior brother. Did you forget what he did in the sect last time? You have no respect for your brother. Why do you have to take care of him? Xia Hongchen's face was cold. How could he forget what happened last time? In front of so many law enforcement disciples, Su Yan's hand was held in the palm of his hand. Every time he thought about it, Xia Hongchen felt as if his heart was being cut by a knife. Xia Hongchen let out a long sigh, still wearing a smile on his face, but that smile was quite forced as he pretended to be indifferent. So what? Junior brother is still young and ignorant. As a senior brother, I should be tolerant. Don't tell me that you have not made mistakes. While speaking, Xia Hongchen's face was slightly twitching. He looked at Yang Kai coldly. However, his words touched the hearts of many High Heaven Pavilion disciples. They were immediately filled with righteous indignation. Compared to Yang Kai's despicable and shameless actions, Xia Hongchen's actions were much more righteous and noble. Welcome to Immortal Cultivation Audiobooks, your gateway to the mystical world of Xianxia. Dive into legendary tales of martial arts, spiritual growth, and immortal ascension. Here, we bring you full-length English audiobooks of the best Wuxia and Xianxia stories, from young prodigies to ancient sect wars. Perfect for fans of Against the Gods, Martial World, and tales of demons and gods.